honestly, we've all been to carnivals before. Like, if you guys haven't been to some sort of carnival or amusement park ride or any of that stuff, you guys know, like, your heart beats like crazy, especially on like the rides or having fun or doing some kind of cool thing on there. But for me specifically, I am not gonna lie to you guys. I guess I have a different way of enjoying amusement parks. Me and my powerful eggplant. I tend to find different ways too. And this is today's story on how I did. But before I get into today's story, I want to make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. You guys have been crushing these stories lately. And honestly, I'm only here to give you guys the best of the best stories. So sit back and relax, get some popcorn, and enjoy the show. Also, join the Bubba Discord server down below. Enjoy the Twitch streams. Okay, let's do it. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So today's story starts off back in high school. You see, back in high school, you guys would already know if you guys watch enough of this channel that I was the ultimate F-boy, the master of the Devil's Tango. And this was my grade 11 year. And this was like fully me into my grade 11 year. And honestly, if you guys may know, I always talk about me and the boys and us doing crazy things. And I think this was a part of our crazy thing. But at the same time, it kind of was just planning something fun. Let me explain. You see, back when I was in high school in grade 11, I had the group called the boys. We're just going to call them that because let's be real here. I'm not going to say their real names on the internet. I'm not exposing people. It's not my job yet. But anyways, like I was saying, so basically, me and the boys were all planning a trip. We all wanted to go do something. And we all wanted to, you know, basically have fun this Halloween because this was around October-ish. And usually every Halloween down here in Vancouver, we have a thing called Playland. And Playland decides to host this thing where it's like spooky, scary Fright Night, you know, all like scary looking stuff around the amusement park. I don't know. It's like how Disneyland themes Christmas, but Playland themes scary monsters with no big peepees. Yeah, there you go. Let's just go with that. So going on, me and the boys were planning going to Fright Night, but honestly, we didn't want to go alone without anybody. Like, we kind of wanted to like group up with like a group of girls to go with because, you know, your boys slides like that, you know, it's just better. I don't know. If you guys don't understand why, you guys will get it as you guys get into high school, or if you guys are already in high school and get it, you feel me, dog? You feel me? But no, seriously though, so we decided to talk to a bunch of chicks in school and we started like, walking around and stuff. And honestly, my friend had a girlfriend at the time and he's like a part of our group, and he basically invited her and her friends. And I'm not gonna lie, her friends weren't that good looking. Like, they were decent, like they weren't like bad. Honestly, one of them ended up being like taller than me. I don't know, it was very interesting, but we'll get to her after. Going on, I remember we all planned to go to Fright Night and we all wanted to go and stuff. So I remember we went back to my friend's house before we left to go to the amusement park. We met up at his place and we all started drinking. Yes, we started drinking before we went into an amusement park. I know, kind of dumb, but at the same time, kind of worth it. So we started to pre-drink, we drank a bit, and you know, we just kept going back to back. But after a while, I remember when we were headed there with the bus, we did not drive, we took the bus. But as we headed there with the bus, I'm not gonna lie, I started feeling dizzy. I got tired, I was exhausted, like I already didn't want to go. But then when we got there, I remember we met up with like this chick's friend group that she brought along so we could hang out with. And I'm not gonna lie, two of the chicks were really hot, but one of them was like really off-putting. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got stuck with that one. Yeah, great. So going on, so me and her were like kind of like, you know, chilling. We started like going in lineups and going to like haunted houses and stuff and started playing little games and stuff and all that weird things you guys would usually see in a movie. Except I would never, you know, if I won a prize, the prize is mine. Like, I'm not gonna give it to you because it's my prize. Other than that, so we were doing all these games and stuff and we were walking around, and I remember we went to get food. And obviously around this time, I'm not gonna lie, my pre-drinking game was like already like kind of like slowing down. Like, I wasn't even that like in the mood, I guess you guys should say. Like, I wasn't like drunk anymore or intoxicated. Can I even say that on YouTube? Can I say drunk? No, but like I was like actually like fine and everything, and this girl was like always like leaning towards me and stuff. And as I started to sober up more and more, I started realizing like, okay, yeah, this chick likes me, like that's great. But I don't know, as I started to sober up more, this girl started to look like eventually more pretty, and I don't know what was going on. Like dude, honestly, my mind was like haunted. Okay, kind of weird for the story being around Halloween time, but it was kind of haunted. Later on, as we started to sober up, me and the rest of the guys were also sobering up at the time, I should probably mention. We started going on rides. We went on, you know, roller coasters. We went on this thing called the Beast, which is like a big swingy scary thingy. Very scary, I don't like it, but you know, just big rides and big scary things. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best at like riding things unless, you know, they're riding me. Sorry, never mind. Anyways, let's keep going. So yeah, we were just on the amusement park and we were just going around, you know, like I said, we were doing the rides. And when we did most of the rides, I remember we all like started to split up with like the chick we were with. So my friend went with his girlfriend, another friend of mine went with one of his friends, you know, like all that stuff. Like, we all started to split up. And when we all started to split up, I was stuck with the girl that I thought wasn't like the most attractive, but like, you know, she was like attractive. Like, she had lips on her, and me and her did not know at all what to do. All I know is that this girl was just leaning on to me, just, you know, being the girl that she thought I wanted her to be, which is like, you know, attached to me and stuff. You guys will get it over time. But she was like really getting close to me and stuff and, you know, doing all that. And me, I had no idea what to do until I saw it. The one thing that could change this whole thing for me, the Ferris wheel. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my goodness, this is where the story gets really good and Bubba gets that devil's tango. And yeah, you're not wrong. That basically sums it up. But, you know, here on the Bubba channel, we actually like to explain how it gets to that point. So let me explain. Basically, I remember when we were on the line of the Ferris wheel, I remember like all our friends started to disperse and stuff, like I said earlier. But as they started to disperse, they kind of looked back and saw me and this chick going on the Ferris wheel. And honestly, most people, when they go on the Ferris wheel together, they're either gonna heavily make out or they're just gonna sit there and be really awkward and look at each other. That's what I thought was gonna happen, actually, funny enough. But this chick was so on to me, dude. Like, I have no way to explain it, but she was so on to me to the point where she, like, basically when we got on the Ferris wheel, she, like, held my hand into it. And at that point, like, I even remember, like, seeing the person who, like, you know, puts people on the ride, like, kind of, like, look at me going, like, okay. Like, he even told me how much time we had to go from the bottom of the loop all around. Like, this man thought I was gonna time it. But no, basically we got on there and it started going, and it goes really slowly, this Ferris wheel. It doesn't go like super fast or anything. Like, it's not like one of those cool swinging ones they have at Disneyland. Like, these are just a basic Ferris wheel that goes around, takes like maybe like at most like 10 minutes, maybe. Usually likes to stop when like people are at the top, but I don't know. Anyway, so we were on that Ferris wheel and we were going around slowly. And as we were going around, I remember when we reached the like halfway point on the left side, this girl, she was like cuddling up against me. She put her hand on my thigh, and at that moment I knew someone was gonna go on. I was like, okay, let's think this through. How much time do I really have? And as I was thinking that through, this girl was already on her damn knees, and she was already, you know, doing the devil's head. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this is really awkward, because I could see from the people on the top, like literally on the tippy top, looking down at me and her just between, like, her head between my legs. Like, it was really awkward. But as she was going ham on that, I remember thinking, okay, it's fine. I kind of like used my jacket to like cover up my yeah, but going on, that kept going, you know, it went on for a bit, and after that we reached the top, and when we were at the tippy top, I remember I straight up bent this girl over, and bippity boppity boo, we did the devil's tango, and that happened for a bit. After that, I remember the Ferris wheel went down the halfway point, and we did the same thing as we did on the other left side, and that was the devil's head. And after that, we came back to the bottom, we were all closed up, and we pretended nothing happened and walked out. Until when I thought the coast was clear, I remember seeing this little kid, I think he was like 13 maybe, walk up to me and give me a fist bump, and he said, "Good stuff, dude," and fist bumps me. Oh my god, did I really just do it in front of a 13-year-old? That was my first thought, to be honest with you guys. But honestly, over time I really started thinking, god, can my life get any more awkward? I don't know, it was just a really awkward experience, guys. And all I'm gonna say is that this chick, she had no problem with it. She had full pride in doing it, and honestly, if she was happy, I was happy. Move on, so forth. Okay, so today's story is something that will literally blow your minds. If you guys read the title of this video, yes, I don't know how this ended up happening, nor do I want to know. Well, to be honest, I do know, because, well, I'm gonna tell you the story. And today's story does get insane, so make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But anyways, let's get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another, well, crazy story. So today's story is basically something that I need to tell you guys for a while now. To be honest, I was gonna tell the story a long time back when I told the story about me doing it on the Ferris wheel. Yes, I did the devil's tango on the Ferris wheel, and I was ready to tell the next story the next day about how I did it on a roller coaster. But honestly, knowing how that video did, and a lot of people are confused on how in the world this ended up happening, well, this is when I tell you this story is actually nuts. Now, this story starts off back when I was in high school. You see, in high school, it was my grade 10 year, and it was towards the end of the year. And what a lot of schools like to do is they like to make some sort of event or some sort of fun, exciting moment so that the school is more quiet when the grade 12s have to take like their finals and tests to basically determine if they're going to what college and stuff. But that aside, I remember basically I was actually super excited to go to an amusement park. With going with basically all the grade 10s and basically everyone in my grade, all of us being in an amusement park would be, well, really dope. So I remember basically me and my friends were discussing how this whole trip was gonna be like when the teacher announced it originally. And I remember one of my friends ended up saying, dude, like, we should definitely like go with a girl, so like at the end of the year, like they'll like remember us for like that trip, you know what I mean? So like they'll talk about it like all summer with us. I don't really know what he was getting at, but basically one thing led to another. He just wanted to go to an amusement park with a chick. No, honestly, it's not a bad idea, and I don't blame him. And knowing this, like, honestly, I was kind of on board with it, because let's be real here, guys, all guys want to hang out with girls. That's just the common sense. That's just the science of human nature. Unless you don't like girls, then you're swinging in a different ballpark. But you know what, that's not the point. Anyways, going on though, I remember basically I was talking to my friend, and he was basically getting everything planned. He was hitting up girls on Snapchat, trying to figure out who would go with who. But I remember I had different plans. I remember there's one girl in my school that was madly, well, kind of already into me. Now, I didn't, like, 100% know if she was actually into me or not yet, to be honest. Because, I was, like, flirting with her here and there during the school year, but it never really determined if she liked me or not, nor did it determine if I liked her or not fully, until, like, towards the end of the year, when I was like, you know what? This girl has really nice cherries. I'm just gonna hit her up. So I remember I ended up going on my phone on Snapchat, and I ended up DMing her saying, yo, I just wanted to mention, like, you're actually really cute. I literally told her that out of thin air. I don't know how she took it. Honestly, I couldn't imagine her looking at her phone just thinking, huh, wow, this guy who DM'd me all throughout the school year is suddenly interested in me. Yeah, kind of awkward. But you know what? That's not the point, I guess. I don't know. The main thing was that I was basically trying to tell her that I'm interested in her and basically, hey, ride on a roller coaster with me. That's kind of like the main basis of what I was trying to get at here. So I remember basically when I ended up messaging her, I literally got a message back instantly saying, oh, like, thanks. Like, I thought you were cute too. Great, is what I ended up texting her back. And then afterwards, one thing led to another. We ended up messaging each other for the entire school day. And then I remember towards the end of the school day, me and her, we ended up actually meeting up and walking home together. I didn't have my car at this time because, well, I was in grade 10. So obviously I wouldn't have a car because I didn't get my car until grade 11. But you guys know what I mean. I basically ended up walking home with her and we basically, started talking and stuff and being flirtations and stuff. And it seemed like we were already dating. It sounds cringe, but I think everyone in high school understands, like, that feeling when it feels like you're already dating a chick, even though, like, nothing's really official. I don't know. It's like the go-to word for, like, when, like, for example, you're talking to a chick, but then a hotter chick comes along and you're like, oh, like, it's not official. I don't know. I've done that many times in my, like, life. I think that's why my devil's tango body count's so high, but that's not the point. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically the next day, it was a Friday, and the school needed to be, like, basically deserted for the grade 12s to do the testing. So I remember when we got to the school, instantly, there was a bus there that we all had to hop on. Every grade 10 and 9 and 11, I believe, were on those buses, and it was super cool seeing, like, all of us from one school collide into one bus. Well, not one bus. It was actually 3 different buses, but it was cool seeing all the grade 10s in our school on one bus. It's like seeing, like, your high school graduation or high school reunion all together in one. Because, like, there's some people that you're friends with, some people you don't really care about, and some people that you haven't seen in a long time. It's actually kind of nuts. Have you guys, like, ever, like, seen a friend in the beginning of the school year, but then never see them till the end of the school year? That's basically what it was for all of us. Anyways, I remember we ended up going there, and we ended up, like, basically heading over to the amusement park. And when we got there, I remember we all got this cool, like, pass to determine what grade we're in, and basically all this stuff about, safety and what group to go to if you're ever in trouble, all that stuff that teachers try to put onto us, even though we never really listened to them. And I remember basically I ended up instantly hanging out with the chick that I was hanging out with the day before, and me and her were just walking around basically flirting and doing our thing. To be honest, I totally ended up dipping on my friend group, which sounds like a non-bro code thing to do, but I'm gonna be real here. Me and this girl were already, like, majorly talking to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, last night I got some photos, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I was like, you know what? Like, this girl's actually really hot. W. So I remember me and her, we were walking around and we were just basically flirting around the amusement park, and then one thing led to another. We ended up going on a bunch of different rides. We went from rides on going to, like, the elevator to, basic simple teacup rides and even bumper cars. But I think it ended up becoming that one part of the amusement park trip where me and her, we actually ended up walking around the amusement park holding hands. Literally everyone in the school thought we were basically a couple, or everyone that was in the amusement park thought we were a couple. But this is where things get really sus. I remember this girl, as she was walking around with me, she ended up telling me, Bubba, like, I'm really thirsty. So I ended up pulling out my water bottle out of my backpack that I usually carried around, but then afterwards, she ended up drinking the water, well, really awkwardly. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but basically, like, her tongue was, like, going around the rim of the water bottle. You guys know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how to explain it. It sounds sus. YouTube, don't demonetize this video. I'm just trying to explain this the best way possible. And then one thing led to another. I'm not gonna lie, she ended up walking around with me, but she was kind of, like, getting super handsy in the lineups. Like, she would literally, like, sometimes, like, stroke and grab my eggplant once in a while. It would get to the point where sometimes she would even, like, give me a kiss on the cheek. Like, she was really in the mood, okay? She wanted to do the devil's tango. And me being a dumb high schooler in grade 10, I'm not gonna lie, I get bricked up super easily. Like, no joke, it was like I was Professor X taking over the mind control of my eggplant. I just knew when to make it rise and when to make it fall. It was like my own little elevator. Actually, it wasn't so little, but that's not the point. Going on, I remember basically me and her, we decided to go on this ride that was a roller coaster. And when we were in the lineup, I remember this girl got really handsy with me, and I remember basically one thing led to another. I ended up grabbing her cherries, and it became really awkward. I remember other people in the lineup were actually looking at us thinking, okay, like, yeah, I don't really want to go on this ride anymore, because if they're gonna be like all like that, that's kind of weird. Like, those people like in like high school that basically like make out in the hallway and stuff? That was basically us, but at the amusement park. Actually, that sounds really gross. Going on though, I remember basically one thing led to another, we ended up going on the ride. But we saw that a lot of people weren't going on the specific roller coaster because for some reason there was like problems with it. But honestly, I didn't really care. I had a hot chick beside me, so I ended up going on this roller coaster with her. And when we went on the ride, I remember partway through, out of nowhere, the ride ended up stopping. It ended up stopping on top of like the big drop that usually most roller coasters have to give you like an adrenaline rush. And I remember basically I'm looking down at this roller coaster thinking, oh man, okay. And I ended up laying back on my seat thinking, how long are we gonna be up here? I remember I look over at the girl and she's just beside me and she's just like, oh, like what a view. Like she's just adoring the view, thinking like this is some romantic scene from a movie. And I remember I look at her and I'm just like, have my arm around her. I'm just chilling, trying to play it cool, thinking, oh yeah, totally cool. It's totally natural to, be stuck on a roller coaster. All roller coasters have this. And I remember this girl just looks at me and she just looks at the ground and she's like, oh, like, are we actually like stuck? I thought this was part of like the view. No, roller coasters don't stop for no reason. No, is what I ended up telling her. But then afterwards, I remember she decided to make this a thing of opportunity and got really close to me. She got close to me and started like basically like kind of like putting her hand on my thigh, and one thing led to another. Well, she was unbuckling my pants. And yeah, let's just say I ended up getting another ride called the Gluck Gluck 9000. I didn't know it was part of the ride, but it made sense. And me and her, we ended up basically doing the Devil's Tango up on the top of the roller coaster. I don't know how to explain this in the most weirdest way possible. And if anyone's asking, oh, like, what about the people behind you on the ride? Like, didn't they see everything? Well, no, because like I said earlier, a lot of people felt uncomfortable during the lineup and ended up leaving. So I think there was like other people on the ride, but they were like 4 or 5 seats away from us. And like, reminder, we were in the very front. So like, we had the really nice view. And since we were so high up, if people from below looked up, well, they wouldn't really be able to see anything other than a head just bobbling up and down. Yeah, that sounds really bad. I shouldn't say this story. What am I doing? Anyways, that's not the point. Going on though, I remember basically after like 20 minutes, I ended up, doing the Devil's Creep and doing my thing. And then, yeah, I remember there was a guy from down below yelling up above saying, all right, guys, the ride's gonna start soon. So I remember when he yelled that, I ended up buckling up my pants as fast as I could. And one thing led to another. I ended up basically going down the roller coaster, getting extra wind going down to my eggplant because I forgot to zip up my zipper. I mean, I don't know. I guess everyone needs a good breeze. And I remember when I got off the roller coaster, this chick like ended up wiping her mouth and she just didn't say anything. And me and her were basically just like looking at each other thinking, wow, we really did that on a roller coaster. It was pretty awkward, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed it. I remember everyone was listening to music at this party, but then one thing led to another when my friend went to the bathroom, still connected to the speaker. I am not joking. What ended up playing was literally the Devil's Hub. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. This story takes place back when I was in grade 10, and I remember my grade 10 year, one thing that was very common was for me to go to parties. If you guys don't know, throughout my high school years, I always went to so many different types of parties. Parties that I really should not have gone to, and parties that were, well, more classy and etiquette. But there's one party that I went to in my high school year that I gotta say was one of the most embarrassing things ever. And it all starts off with me walking down the school hallway in my grade 10 year with me and the boys. And we were just walking down the hallway, headed to the school cafeteria, until one of the guys ended up walking up to us that ended up playing rugby. Now, this guy, he was a nice guy, and honestly, he never like was really well known throughout the school, but at the same time, he was like known for just playing rugby. But for some reason for him, he wanted to find a way to pull more girls, so he went to the one person he knew that was, well, able to pull many different types of women, and that was me. I remember he came up to me as I was with the group of boys at the cafeteria, and he said, yo, Bubba, bro, I'm just wondering, man, like, I want to host a party this weekend, but like, I don't know like that many girls to invite because I don't want to make it just an all guys party, like a sausage fest. So like, I was wondering if you show up, like, can you like spread the word? I remember when he asked me, I told him like, are you sure about this? Like, it's not easy hosting a party. And he seemed like he was really for sure that he wanted to do this. I said, okay, yeah, you know what, bro? Sure, I'll invite some people. I'll spread the word. So once I got the approval to start inviting people, I remember me and my friends, the guys, were just going out throughout the school and just telling everyone about this. It got to the point where we started posting on our Instagram stories, Snapchat stories, like we posted it everywhere. And I made sure that everyone knew exactly where the address was and everything. And one thing I will say is that this party was literally insane until it became too much. I remember the day of the party happened, and I remember so many people were super excited about this party. Like, I am not joking, everyone, and I mean everyone, was talking about it throughout my school. So 100%, I told my friend that was hosting this party at the time, hey man, like, make sure you have everything ready, make sure you childproof the place, make sure there's no glass just hanging out, just make sure everything is party ready. And that's exactly what he was doing. As for me, well, I had a golden rule back when I was in high school that I would only show up to parties like an hour to half an hour later. Because honestly, one thing I will say is that showing up to a party super early is kind of cringe. And showing up to a party too late, well, it just makes you seem like, rude. So me showing up like an hour late to like, 30 minutes late was more of the norm for me because, it's kind of like a cool grand entrance like you guys see in those movies. So that's what I was doing. I remember when an hour went by and people were snapping me and messaging me saying that they were at the party. I remember I ended up getting into my car and I ended up driving down to the party. When I got there, I remember I ended up seeing that this party was going crazy. There was a ton of girls outside just hanging out. There was a lot of girls inside. And on top of that, there was a lot of dudes just hanging out, mingling and having a good time. What I will say is that this party was a huge turnout. But what I will say is that let's just say all good things must come to an end. Because I remember during the party, like a lot of people were like walking up to me and stuff and it was good. But then afterwards, I remember there was one big problem. The problem was that there was a person at the party that was like basically hosting the music, which was basically like, his speakers and stuff. And basically he had to go home. So he decided to walk up to me and tell me, yo, Bubba, I gotta go, but can you take over the music? I ended up looking at him and I told him that I didn't really want to connect my phone because I get a lot of messages and DMs. And honestly, the speaker would probably get more notification sounds than actual music. And I ended up walking up to the person that was hosting the party originally. I walked up to him and told him, yo, bro, so the person that's auxing right now is leaving. Are you cool to like take over the aux? Yeah. I can do that. Okay, cool. Here, let me just connect the speaker to your phone. I connected his phone to the speaker and I am not joking. That was my biggest regret I've ever done. Like, I am not joking because what ended up happening next, I gotta say, was extremely uncomfortable for every girl that was at the party. Because I remember when everyone was like hanging out for a good hour and a half, I remember out of nowhere, my buddy ends up walking up to me and he says, yo, Bubba, I'm gonna quickly go to the bathroom, but thank you so much for helping me with this party, bro. Like, it was super awesome. And like, I love it. And I think a lot of people are gonna remember this party. Like, this is awesome, bro. Thank you so much for helping me out. Oh yeah, no problem, man. Like, don't worry about it, is what I told him. But then afterwards, he ended up basically walking away from me, and where he ended up walking off to, I have no idea. Like, I'm not joking. No one could find him when he thanked me, and like, everyone was just looking around for him because they wanted to thank him for the party that he hosted. But as we were looking around and stuff, I remember one thing led to another. We ended up hearing the music totally just stop. The music just stopped out of nowhere. The whole house went quiet. Everyone started looking towards me because, well, the host wasn't around. And I ended up looking around saying, guys, like, don't worry about it. I'll quickly connect someone else to the music. It's all good. So me, as I'm walking up to the speaker with my phone out of nowhere, and I am not joking, out of nowhere, the speaker turns back on. But did it play music? No. The speaker turns back on and starts playing these really weird moaning sounds throughout the whole house. And I'm not joking, like, everyone started looking at me as if I was playing that. But I was like, bro, I don't know what this is. And then afterwards, a girl walks up to me saying, Bubba, what song is this? And one thing led to another. Yeah, it's not easy hearing, oh my goodness, you're so good, Big Daddy, over the speakers. Let's just say the person that was connected to the speakers, the host of the party, was literally watching the Devil's Hub. And everyone in the house could hear it. It was so embarrassing. And I remember everyone started looking around, basically trying to find out where this guy was that was watching it. And all the guys were laughing and all the girls felt super uncomfortable. And I'm not joking. I had to think on my feet for this one. So I remember I ended up running up to the speaker and unplugging it fully from the wall so that no one would have to hear that. At that moment, I remember my buddy walked up to me and said, yo, Bubba, the person that was connected to the speaker earlier, they're in the bathroom still, bro. So me and all the guys, we ended up basically waiting right outside the bathroom door. And right as this guy came out of the bathroom with his phone, he ended up looking at all of us saying, yo, why is everyone watching me? What happened to the party? Dude, we know what you were doing in there. I didn't do anything. Dude, you were literally watching the Devil's Hub. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, after that whole interaction, he ended up feeling super embarrassed. And now he's remembered as the guy who played the Devil's Hub on the speakers. Kind of crazy. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.